Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. Such a pleasure to have you here with us. Maybe you could just kick off with a brief introduction to your film for people who don't know anything about it. Tell us a bit about what they can expect.
Sure. Thank you for having me. My film is called What We Shared, and the script for the film is based on memories and dreams of a war that happened between Abkhazia and Georgia in 1992 and 93. And for those of you who don't know, Abkhazia is a de facto state between the Russian Federation and Georgia. And it's a state that's very much suspended in time and history. So I worked with a group of Abkhaz citizens who have helped me to kind of construct that script of the recollection of the war.
And what inspired you to kind of revisit that period in history and want to put it on the big screen and tell the story to the world in a way?
Yeah, so my work typically deals quite a lot with marginalized stories, marginalized communities, and I work quite a lot with archives. And this film was an outcome of a residency program, artist in residence program, with an organization called Sklad Cultural Center in Suhumi, whose mission is really to revive the artistic life in the region, which actually is quite rich, despite the fact that living in the country is quite challenging since the war still. And the title, the theme of the residency was ironically called The Archive, bearing in mind that the Abkhaz State Archive was actually destroyed in a war with Georgia. So we had no artifacts for archive other than people's memories and dreams, all their personal images. So I worked with this idea of what about if we treat the lack of an archive as an opportunity to construct an archive ourselves? And how about if we treat the body as an archive and feelings and dreams as archives? And what emerged from that was that people were in control of their own representation and they were in control of how they wanted to be represented in this archive that we created as a film. So that's what drove our making of it, yeah.
Can you talk us through the actual making of it and what were some of the highlights and challenges that you faced along the way?
So the making took place in two parts. I first went to Abkhazia for a month, did a lot of interviews with local people, local citizens, I interviewed about 20 people, I think. Then I came back to London, spent a year writing a script, and went back to film the script with some of the people who were my interviewees, some of whom were professional performers, others were not. And I often find that combination of professional performance with amateur actors that works really well. And the challenges along the way, I mean, there were quite a lot of them. It's a low-budget production. And I would like to say thank you to Arts Council England for funding the project because that made the feature possible. I didn't realize at first that I was actually making a feature film. So the money was a big challenge, but because it's a small community of people, we had a lot of resources. So when we needed a trolley for the camera, we built it. We actually use a wheelchair, strangely enough, for a trolley. So we would find things to do with it that worked. But larger challenges were in some ways ethical. I found it quite difficult at first to film in a place where I spend a limited time in, because I felt that of course I can always come and go. And what happened was that another strand came into the story, which is my own personal sort of auto-fictional narrative around my grandparents' memories of war in Poland. And that helped me justify sort of my own presence in the film and as a director as well. And I think that also provided quite a strong emotional arc to the film.
And what do you hope people are going to take away from watching it?
I think Abkhazia right now it's been in a very, very difficult geopolitical situation, and I think there's a very strong sense between Abkhaz and Georgian people that they would like a reconciliation. And to date, for over 30 years now, all the reconciliation policies and attempts have failed, and people express a lot of need for that to happen. There's still 250,000 refugees, Georgian refugees, that cannot return to Abkhazia, and I think there's a lot of Abkhaz people that would want them to return too. Of course, the Georgian people want to return, but it's politics, and people are caught in geopolitical situation that they don't have any influence over. And I think and we are in the current state in a world where actually conflicts happen very quickly. They emerge between neighbors over very basic things. And I think it's not out of the question that it could happen in this country too. And I hope that people, when they watch this film, they realize that it's all about human relations, it's about humans. We need to take care of each other. And I think we also all have a stake about how those traumatic events are being represented. So yeah.
And what does it mean to you for the film to be screening as part of the London Film Festival, and you know, how do you see it as a platform for a much broader audience to be able to see it?
Yeah, it means a lot to me to be premiering it at the London Film Festival, because I've been coming to Experimenta program for a long time. I also used to work at the festival when I was a student, so this is really dear to me to be able to premiere it, have it as a world premiere. I'm also, in my practice, I am an artist filmmaker, but I'm trying to find broader audiences, and this is my first feature film, and it was an attempt to sort of create a slightly more narrative-based film that reaches wider audiences. So I'm really grateful that London Film Festival provided that, because our screening last night was sold out, we were full, and it was wonderful. So thank you.
And you know, are you seeing that there are more and more opportunities now for female filmmakers specifically, and or do you think there's still work to do in order to kind of have better representation, you know, across gender and ethnicity, and you know, it's still too narrow?
Yeah, I think there's definitely an improvement, but I think some of it is tokenistic, and I think we do need to create structures for female filmmakers to, you know, to be educated. Same for cinematographers or film composers. I was talking to a film composer the other day, for example, and she told me that 2% of composers are women in Hollywood. That's not that different to directors. I think we all need to work together. And I don't know if you remember Frances McDormand's Oscar speech from 2 years ago, when she talked about, you know, come to us with scripts, with ideas, you know, because men still, I think, especially in a wider, more commercial business, there are still more men filmmakers than there are women. So there's still work to do.
Yeah, indeed.
Definitely.
Well, thank you so much for your time. It was lovely to chat to you.
Thank you.